You've tried using AI for your marketing. You've prompted ChatGPT, maybe even used it for LinkedIn posts or emails, but the results still feel generic. It doesn't sound like you, it doesn't feel like it really works, and you're starting to wonder if this whole AI thing is even worth it. The thing that nobody tells you is that the problem here isn't AI, but it is that you're using AI without a positioning strategy. AI is just a tool that helps you amplify this quickly. Feed the AI the right input, like proper context about your business, voice, and audience, and it will start sounding like the authority that you already are. I know this because I was already there when I started my business. I'm a university research chair and have published over 300 papers, got millions in funding, and I had more than 15 years of expertise, but online I was invisible. Then I figured out how to use AI strategically for my positioning, and everything started to change. By the way, my name is Dr. Lennart Nacke, and I help founders and executives turn their deep domain knowledge into visible authority with writing and learning systems that scale beyond their organization. In this video, I'll show you the 7 AI strategies that turn invisible expertise into visible authority. And strategy 7 is one that my highest performing coaching clients credit for every good output they've gotten since they started using it. Here's the fundamental trap. Most expert founders treat AI like a vending machine. You put in a prompt and you get out content. And the content looks fine, I guess. Polished even. But it sounds like everyone else. It carries none of your thinking. None of your edge. None of what makes a client say, I need to work with that person right there. And hey, level with me for a second here when I'm telling you that AI is not the problem here. I too once used AI that made me sound like I was selling nutritional supplements. You actually want to know what AI without positioning sounds like? LinkedIn. All of LinkedIn. Every single post. The same post. Forever. Don't blame your blender because your smoothie tastes terrible. If you put in socks instead of mangoes, that's the kind of crap you get. You see the problem now? AI without proper positioning is just not giving you the results that you deserve. Without a clear picture of who you serve, what you sound like, and why your expertise matters, AI just helps you go into the wrong direction faster. And the data back that up. There was an MIT study based on 150 interviews with leaders, a survey of 350 employees, and an analysis of 300 public AI deployments. And it found that only 5% of AI pilot programs achieve measurable business impact. So up to 95% of AI programs fail. And it's not because AI sucks, it's because people bolt on AI without defining what it's supposed to do. It's classic shiny new object syndrome in action. People rush to the next tool instead of focusing on getting the fundamentals right. The results that they are getting are generic outputs or off-brand content or zero institutional memory. They start every session from scratch and all the output sounds like it was written by a different person. Now that's not what you want. Add to that the compounding problem in the way that people discover and evaluate expertise online, because this is also changing rapidly. SEMrush tracked 69 million search sessions, 58% of standard Googling now ends without anyone clicking the link. In AI mode, that number even hits 93%. Visibility used to mean ranking on page 1. Now it means being the name that surfaces when someone asks an AI who should they hire for their next gig. If your authority isn't clear, specific, and findable, you're invisible in the places that matter the most. So here's what we're going to do. 7 strategies organized into 3 phases: foundation, execution, distribution. Let's start with the foundation. Number 1 is, what would you change about this campaign if you already knew it didn't work? Here's the problem with how most founders use AI. They use it to confirm what they already believe. They paste in a landing page into ChatGPT or Claude, and then they say, hey, how can I improve this? And the model says, yeah, great work, because, it is so sycophantic. Here are some minor tweaks. Because that's what the models are trained to do, right? Like agreeable responses score higher in the training data. So you're not getting the real insight unless you're using a custom prompt. And that is not helpful. This creates a specific, expensive failure for you. You spend weeks building a campaign with AI that helps you polish everything on the surface, and it looks professional and it reads well and you feel good about it, but you drive paid traffic to it and all of a sudden you see that it doesn't convert, or it converts at 0.3% or something like that. So this is not because your copy was sloppy, but it's because the foundational assumptions of who you're writing to are wrong. The headline promised one benefit and the body argued a different value proposition. The pricing happened too late. The social proof is maybe too narrow. AI doesn't necessarily catch that unless you feed it very specific instructions, because you never asked it to look for the problems. You just ask it to make things shinier, better, nicer. Do this one change and you will see enormous consequences. Instead of, hey, help me improve this landing page, ask it to assume that this landing page already converts at 0.3%. And what are the most likely causes for that? So then you're reframing the output that you get, and all of a sudden the model doesn't necessarily agree with you because it's already in that negative state, and it starts dissecting the things that you don't see because you now gave it permission to do that. You steered it in the right direction. You told it the thing that is already wrong, and now it will operate on that assumption that it needs to improve that wrong thing, even though that thing might be correct, but it will try its best to try and give you these new ideas. It has to explain to you why this thing sucks, and that only happens if you prime it like that in the first place. The point is not that AI writes better copy, it's that AI is most useful when it works against your plan. Most founders treat it like a supportive colleague, but the higher value use that you can get is treating it like a paid skeptic. Confirmation bias is the default for both humans and language models. Structured failure is the only way that you can break this agreement. So structure it in a way that it will assume something is wrong. It is most useful when it works against you a little bit. It creates that friction. How do you do that? Here are 4 prompts that you can use immediately. 1. This campaign failed after 30 days. List the 5 most probable mistakes, ranked by likelihood. 2. What would a hostile analyst say about this positioning? Where's the weakest link? 3. A competitor launched the same product 2 weeks ago before us. What did we fail to anticipate? Assume that we lost 40% of prospects at the pricing page. What objections did we not address? Just do these 15 minutes before each launch, and that's your total investment. You'll get way better results. Number 2 is, how does your content sound like after 3 months of AI, when you've never told it what you actually sound like in the first place? This is the most consistently skipped step among founders. It is also the one with the longest shadow behind it, because 81% of companies admit to regularly publishing off-brand content. Those are not small numbers. And when you hand off content generation to AI without defining what you sound like, you don't get bad content. You get something that's even worse. You get content that sounds competent, but it's also kind of bland and forgettable. Content that could have been written by any consulting firm, any startup, any guy on LinkedIn with a ChatGPT subscription. But this is actually particularly dangerous for experts, because your audience chose you because you think differently, because you frame problems in a way that they haven't considered yet, because your sentences have some sort of rhythm, some sort of texture. They're specific enough that you can show them that I'm somebody that has actually done the work. So that's the thing that AI will strip out unless you give it the right context and the right instructions to leverage the stuff that you know. I've seen this with some of the people that I see posting on LinkedIn. The posts look super professional and they read kind of well, but something is a little off, something about the phrasing. And then you should really think about, okay, does that feel quite right? There are certain tells in the language, you know. It used to be things like delve, then it became stuff like signaling. Now it is about failure modes or other words that just somehow stick out in a weird way out of the responses and posts that people do. You see that everyone all of a sudden is able to do short, punchy sentences, and that is great, but how about mixing it up every once in a while, throwing in a long analytical one, giving it a bit of rhythm? Personally, I like reaching for metaphors, and I never say things like leverage or synergy in an official post, unless the word has earned its space there, which is pretty rare. Because my audience will spot these kind of corporate filler things, and that is not something that you want. The output can look polished, but it is eroding the one thing that makes you content worth reading in the first place. So you might not notice it's happening because every individual piece looks fine to you, but over 3 months or longer, you'll start to see a pattern. You'll start to get used to that voice, and you see how sanded down it is all of a sudden, how generic, and how hard it is to actually get it right, get it better. And one of the ways to do that is to give it very specific prompts, copywriting prompts that actually help you distill some things to their essence, help you insert rhythm and tone into the posts that you do to make them more appealing and more relevant to the person that you're posting for. I have created different voice systems, but most voice systems have 4 parts. They have a voice fingerprint, your personality traits, your tone description, and what you explicitly never do in your writing. Then they have some sort of a vocabulary bank where you have your power words that you like to use, your banned phrases, and your preferred metaphors. And then they have some sort of channel tone difference where you say how you sound on LinkedIn and you say how you sound in an academic paper, or how you sound on LinkedIn, or you say how you sound in a YouTube video, or how you would sound on X. Those would be very different ways of sounding. And then ideally at the very end, you usually want to give, and this is always in a good prompt, a quality assurance checklist where you're asking it a couple of questions, usually 5, that it can run against the output to kind of flag if there's anything off brand and then course correct. I always do that in my prompts because I like to give the AI something that can help it understand things better and give a warning sign to bad output so that output gets flagged before it's even delivered. If you build this once and then you load it at the start of every AI session, you're good to go. You can turn this into a skill or other things. Number 3 is, what if the recording you made this week is already worth 30 pieces of content which you haven't written yet? This is particularly true for people on YouTube. Most founders think about content as individual units and a lot of writing that they have to do, but people that have posted on social media quite a bit understand that one newsletter or one LinkedIn post is much more than a LinkedIn post, and a newsletter is more than a newsletter. A YouTube video is not just a YouTube video, right? They all create a synergy between them, but most people see this as, okay, this is something I have to create from scratch, which means every piece of content costs the same amount of creative energy. And that is really not an effective way to create a good system that will yield great output. That math does not work for us, especially if you only have 4 hours a week to spend on creating content. The principle here is that your depth cannot be reverse engineered. And if you put out something that has a high depth, you cannot take a tweet and turn it into this 30-minute depth breakdown. It can get you to the starting place, but not all the way there. So the idea is that you can do the opposite. So you can take this big 30-minute breakdown that you've written, and then you can take it into tweets, you can take it into stories, you can basically do the opposite from any sort of long form piece. You can take it, you can take that recording and you can extract 30 different pieces from it because the depth is already there. You have the raw material that's sitting in the transcript, and it will become lots of different things. The video that you're watching right now will probably become a newsletter issue. It might become 10 to 15 short form clips. It might be 8 to 12 LinkedIn posts. It might be a podcast episode. It might be an FAQ page. It might be an email course module for later. This can all come from one simple recording session. So it's good to get into the habit of talking about your expertise in depth and recording that so that you can then repurpose it. And the part that matters more than volume is that you stay coherent in your content. So every piece points back to the same set of ideas, the same framework, the same argument. Your audience really wants to see your thinking in different formats, but it wants to see that same thinking so that you reinforce and you don't fragment it. So coherence really helps you build that trust in a way that these disconnected posts don't really do. Founders that run the system are usually way more successful because they're able to niche down much better. One editorial pass, 30 outputs every week, you'll get something that is really useful. And the critical rule, and this is non-negotiable, is that AI can really handle the mechanical transformations into different content bits quite well once you train it, or once you give it specific instructions or skills. But you have to handle the editorial judgment. Never outsource the stories that you've told, the beliefs that you have, the values that make your content resonate. Those are the only things that AI can't manufacture. It'll just come up with bullshit. And they're the only things that your audience actually came to you for. Phase 2, execution. Number 4 is, who exactly are you talking to? And could you describe them in one sentence specific enough to write a headline for? Most founders would probably describe their audience like a census category. Small business owners, tech leaders, professionals. And when you market to something that you would find in the census, you compete on price and features because you're not specific enough to show that this is precisely for that one person. This is the biggest thing that I had to learn, because to me, I was basically understanding niches as these wide concepts of the market. But a narrow ICP, this is an ideal customer profile, does something completely different. It lets you really understand what kind of niche you're in and compete very strongly in that tiny market. The difference in outcome here is absolutely fantastic, because all of a sudden you're very much understanding who you're creating content for and why that content needs to exist. One thing that I like to do is feed different conversations into an AI, client conversations that I have, coaching conversations that I have, and ask it to cluster it by the different pain points, the urgency triggers, the language patterns, which really helps me understand my audience. It helps me understand the people that I help. It helps me understand the patterns that are there. This way I can really understand the kind of niche that I'm in. And this helps me cut stuff down, narrow stuff down, and really aim at the things that matter. I can now identify problems much better. And if I know what problems the people that I work with have, I can turn that into better solutions, because the solutions can be very specific to very specific problem. That's something that you can write headlines for. That's something that you can position your profile around. And then you're going to get inbound inquiries that will actually land with the type of offer that you have. So you don't have to change your skills. You just have to be clear about who this offer is for, so that instead of talking to all the people out there, you're talking to one specific person, and that specific person will feel identified by your content. And then they will be able to get back to you and hopefully engage with you on that piece of content. And that will lead to coaching sessions or whatever other offers you have. It will lead to a call at the very least, in which you can identify whether you're a match with that person. This is without any sort of money spent on ads, without, any sort of extra cost. This just really helps you attract the kind of people that you're developing something for, that your expertise is supposed to hit with. And that gives you visibility in the broader sense. And that is quite powerful for your larger positioning in the world. Number 5, where's the most convincing thing a client ever said about your work right now, and why is nobody ever reading it? The way that most founders handle social proof looks kind of something like this. They send you, or they get a nice email from a client, you screenshot that email, then you post it once and somebody leaves a review and you paste that on your testimonials page, and that's where it sits and it accumulates dust, and maybe somebody visits. But you need to get traffic on these things. The raw material for the most persuasive content that you could ever produce is already in your business. It's in the email threads, it's in the transcripts, it's in the Slack messages, it's in any survey responses that you put out there, and any support tickets that you get. Client language really can describe the specific results they're looking for, the specific changes that you've helped them achieve, and specific before and after comparisons that are quite interesting to the offer that you're bringing forward. This kind of language is much more convincing than anything that the AI could write from scratch without the proper context, because it comes from someone who's actually paid you and who's describing what happened after they've worked with you. So you have to work, you've got to produce this volume first. You have to work with a lot of people to understand what their pain points are, so that you then can put out that knowledge and actually attract more of the same people. And this becomes a processing flywheel that eventually will lead to much bigger results. That's your bottleneck. It's not that you don't have enough proof, it's that you're not processing all the proof that you have in the right way, that you can operationalize it, that you can action this. And that matters most than most people realize, because social proof doesn't work unless you're putting traffic towards it. It works when it's embedded at every point where a buyer needs to make a decision. You want to put it in an email sequence, you want to put it on the booking call page, you want to put it in the newsletter, on the blog post, you want to even put it in the ad copy if you can, right? Like, this is the kind of stuff that really gets you an edge when you're working with other competitors. Proof needs to be distributed widely. Otherwise, it just sits there without any gravitational field. It just sits there on a web page and it doesn't have enough touch point to reinforce your credibility. The buyer doesn't experience one moment of social proof, they experience multiple moments of social proof. They need to be reminded of this, and it needs to be everywhere. This is the main advice I have for you. The proof shows up everywhere. because you have a bank of it and the AI knows how to draw from it and how to put it in the right context. That's the way to go from 1 session per month to 1 hour of proof interactions to compounding returns across your entire channel. Phase 3, distribution. Number 6 is what happens to your email list when 10,000 different people get the exact same message every week. Well, here's the default. You build an email list, you write a newsletter, and the same broadcast goes out to every subscriber. Someone who joined because they wanted AI writing workflows gets the same email as someone who joined for some sort of career strategy. And all of these people are treated like one person. And then your click-through rates don't really work. That's not a problem of volume of sending out more emails. This is a problem of making it more relevant. And if you have that kind of scale, if you have that kind of audience, you need to think about relevance. You need to think about how do I segment and personalize so that out of these thousands of people, only the people that find this relevant get an introduction to that specific offer. That usually leads to much higher transaction rates than if you just send out generic broadcasts, because AI can really help you optimize these types of personalizations if you have tagged and annotated the people on your email list well. This is the difference between a list that just generates revenue and one that just leads subscribers every time you hit send. One of the things that really changed my click-through rates for the better was when I started building behavioral tags based on which links people clicked in the emails, and then use them to segment my email sequences. And that way I had much better click-through rates for the people that were interested in the things that I started advertising. And people are much more likely to reply to the emails that are relevant for them. And that doesn't really have anything to do with better writing. It just has everything to do with giving them the right content at the right time to the right person. The same message to everyone means you're relevant to no one. That's the principle. Personalization at scale is really about leveraging the power that you have with some of these email tools that are available to you. This is where you can also use AI to think about personalization of subject lines and so forth that really help you address the different parts of your email list. Number 7, what does the AI actually know about your business before you ask it to write something for you? This is the one strategy that explains nearly every complaint a founder has about AI output quality. People say it sounds generic, it sounds not like me, it seems like I'm spending all this time editing AI draft. I might as well have written it from scratch. Every time I hear this, I ask them the same question. What context did you give the model before you asked it to write? Did you just put it into chat? Did you maybe even create a project? That's like level 2. Or did you run it with Claude Cowork or Claude Code or Codex or Gemini's anti-gravity version that runs on local files and chat transcripts and all of this contextual data that makes this so much richer? They usually just open a fresh chat, type a prompt, if it's even a prompt, just a little bit of a question, and then they expect the model to just know and remember because they have memory enabled and it will remember some stuff, but it might not remember the changes that have happened. It will not remember the ICP, the pricing, the voice, the past campaigns, all of these extra instructions that you can give AI through context. And of course, yeah, memory makes that better because that's also context, but a lot of people don't even use that feature. They just use the standard chat model. And then the model doesn't know any of the things and it starts over and over again and is not quite as useful as it could be. This is the most important principle in this entire video. It's the reason I saved it for last, because most enterprises that employ any of these AI systems and that get zero return on investments are enterprises that have not aligned it with their unique business context, right? Generic models are built for everyone and optimized for no one again. The quality of the output is a direct function of the quality of the input. And that's not just the prompt, it's the context surrounding the prompt. Last year, we were all about trying to figure out the prompts. This year, we're all about trying to figure out what is the right context at what time. It's about progressive disclosure. It's about delivering the content when the model needs the content. If you hire a very smart consultant and they're capable of extraordinary work, but you never give them a brief about the kind of work that they need to do for you. You never tell them who your clients are, what you sell, what your competitors are doing, and what went well and what didn't go well. But you just say, hey, consultant, write me a LinkedIn post. Well, of course you're going to get generic output because you gave them nothing to work with. So AI is kind of like that smart consultant that needs a good briefing. So the work's on you, buddy. You need to provide a good briefing session to make this more useful to you. And that's making you more effective in AI use. When I built my first context document, my first SOP, it took me about 2 hours. But the time savings I got from that over time with my offer stack, my voice fingerprint and other stuff have absolutely accumulated and definitely made that a valuable investment for me over time. This is a great change that anyone can implement because it is very easy to create different folders and contextual documents that make your AI more effective. These documents will compound into something that will become the lifeblood of your business over time and will make these systems so much more effective. This is a living memory system that will absolutely improve your outputs as a founder. I cannot recommend this high enough. Those are the 7 strategies, and the implementation sequence matters. So let me leave you with that. Phase 1, the foundation. You can do this in a week or 2. Write your AI context document, build your brand voice, define your ICP. This costs nothing but time and thinking. It is also where nearly all AI problems begin. If you skip it, everything else will be generic. So spend some time on that. Phase 2, execution. Set up one recording content engine. Run pre-mortems on your next campaign. Build your social proof bank from existing client communications. Build that context that AI can use to personalize your offer and your output. Might take you 3 weeks. And then phase 3 is distribution. This can take 5 to 6 weeks. And here you set up a personalized email sequence for lead nurturing, and you're just personalizing the entire experience around your expertise system. The foundation phase is where most founders want to skip ahead because it does take some time and they want the distribution, the automation, and the scale right away. But the compounding effects of phase 2 and 3 depend entirely on the quality of the foundation phase. So write your AI context document, build your brand voice system, define your ICP. Those are the things that compound over time. The thinking has to come first, the speed will always come after. So if you're a founder or expert who wants to build these systems with support, I coach senior experts on exactly this kind of strategic infrastructure. The link is in the description. And if you want to get a weekly breakdown of how to turn deep expertise into visible authority using AI, subscribe to The Right Insight. 14,000 professionals already read it, and the link, as always, is below. If this was useful, subscribe. I publish new breakdowns like this every week, and this video is also super relevant to this one. I'll see you in the next one.